Greetings friends, and welcome to Darktide. I'm Lorcan, and this is OnlyWar. Now I'm a wee bit late to the party putting this one together, life can sometimes throw other priorities at you, but I'm pretty pumped for Fat Shark's go at putting Vermintide in space, and despite being a bit behind the release of the gameplay trailer and press articles, we'll have a quick look at everything we know. I'll be pausing the trailer. I won't play it uninterrupted at the start, as I'm sure you've all seen it in full by now. Link is in the description if not. So let's get started. So the trailer starts off panning into the planet of Atoma Prime. We are told that a heretical cult called the Admonition are seeking to seize control of the planet. We close in on the hive city of Tertium, with its single central primary spire where the game is set. We'll be sent on various missions to different areas of the hive. We've been told there will be some form of expanded mission table, giving more player choice in deployment. In the lore, Tertium would be home most likely to billions of citizens, especially throughout its sprawling outer hab blocks, and this is where the seeds of corruption are threatening the vast populace. First shot of the Valkyrie assault carrier approaching the drop point. We can see the Imperial iconography is still intact, which fits with this being the early stages of an insurrection, rather than a hive already in need of liberation. And here we get the first look at our 4-person squad leaving the Valkyrie. We're told in other places these could be penal legion convicts that have been put into the service of an Inquisitor, we'd have to assume from either the Order Hereticus or the Order Sepulturum. This might just have been Fat Shark looking for a reasonably lore-friendly way to put together this mix of character types and give them a backstory direction. If you don't know or have any real interest in the lore, you can probably get behind an idea of some exceptional individuals getting thrown together and sent on last chance missions if they have something to prove or atone for. So we see the squad with their melee weapons. Starting from the right, we have what appears to be a Ministorum priest, possibly an inquisitorial acolyte, armed with a power hammer. It could have been labelled a power maul if sticking more closely to the tabletop options for the Ministorum priest in later editions, but then again, I can see that weapon in the hands of a Bulgarin down the line. Next to her we have a male guardsman. He's armed with a chainsword and is wearing full flak armour in the Cadian pattern, similar to what we'd expect in a Cadian shock trooper. Doesn't mean he is from Cadia, that pattern is widely replicated across the Imperium. He's not decked out to the level of Tempestus Scions in their carapace armour. I wouldn't be surprised to see that being a direction you could take with this character though as you progress through the game. Next to him we have our big meaty Ogryn, causing a fair bit of excitement among those following the game closely as you'd expect. Armed with a combat knife that looks easily the same size as the chainsword of our guardsman. No obvious armour options for the big lad outside of the tactical vest favoured in Catachan. Gotta love that inquisitorial tattoo right on his forehead. And finally on the far left we have the tall female guardsman. She's only wearing parts of the Cadian pattern flak armour, missing the right shoulder, the greaves, the heavier gauntlets that we see on her male compatriot. This makes sense when we see later on that she's armed with a long las pattern rifle, as well as the power sword that we see here. She's also wearing what could be a miniaturized Voxcom bead. I'm going to assume that that is how we might receive in-mission communications from our Inquisitor. I'm certainly getting squad leader vibes from her. She reminds me of the description of Tonna Creed from Gaunt's Ghosts. Although Creed wasn't a sniper, other female Vervenhivers excelled in that field, so she might be a pastiche of those ideas. Power Sword is an interesting choice on her, both if she is generally more ranged focused and from a status perspective, but I think we've got to expect some lore bending if we're going to incorporate some of the iconic 40k weapons when we've only got 4 characters. We then see some of the melee combat mechanics that will be very familiar to anybody who's played Fat Shark's Vermintide. I do enjoy the animation where the chainsword bites and meets resistance, I think that's really good. The plague zombies are likely to play a prominent part of the horde mechanics of the game, and we can see they sport some horns and other signs of Nurgle corruption to set them apart from your typical garden variety brain connoisseur. This fight appears to be occurring in a quite open industrial area of the hive, possibly walkways that have been mentioned. Following on from the docking bay scene, this makes sense. Next, we're in the priest's point of view. We're in an enclosed space with what could be hab blocks, nice detail on the scenery in places here. She's facing what could be traitor guard, but I think a more militarily organised chaos force more similar to the Blood Pact encountered again by the Tanith first and only in the Sabbath World's Crusade could be more on the money. The pact consisted of trained soldiers rather than just fanatical cultists, and they fought as a disciplined army with similar training and organisation to the Imperial Guard. They were reasonably well drilled, carrying over the command structure and warfare techniques from their training in militia or PDF forces or guard regiments, and the pact were said to continue to recruit from those sources. We can see her using her power hammer, and we get the flash of electrical discharge when it connects on the first swing with that trooper. The animations look impactful as you'd want this weapon to feel. Next we cut to what could be the Ministorum, or at least a more architecturally pleasant part of the manufacturing building, and we have the Ogryn with his model's higher perspective. The knife animation doesn't look quite as impactful at this point, even taking into account the strength of a blow from an Ogryn as I'd like. We'll just have to see how that goes. In the next cutscene we have the squad in an open circular chamber. We have the male guardsman removing his chainsword from the head of what we'd have to think of as some sort of corrupted hound. Not wanting to be overly critical twice in quick succession, it does look quite Skaven-like in appearance rather than something we've seen in 40k. It's a chaos-tainted naked mole rat? We get the prayer from the priest kneeling in the background, and I like the voice actor here, by the way, as we pan round the squad becoming aware of the Chaos Troopers who are surrounding their position. Again, this seems more reminiscent of an organisation like the Blood Pact, rather than a normal Chaos warband, and like them we see numerous similarities in their war gear, more like running themes rather than identical uniforms. In the Blood Pact, that came from ritualistic practices, as well as from scavenging and adapting the kit that their members may have brought with them originally. Some background fluff has named the Traitor Guard elements as the Mobian Sixt, and we'll have to see if that's played up or not. Maybe in some instances they'll provide a more ranged threat compared to the cultists being a more melee focused, but that remains to be seen. Having taken their positions, we see our squad switch to their ranged weapons. So we have the trooper pull out what looks to be a pretty standard pattern lasgun with light attachment, a flashlight on a laser pointer, a twin-link lasgun, you take your pick. And the priest has an autogun which fits with the tabletop, also with a light attachment. It's been stated that there will be blackout sections or events, so pretty handy. The other guard seems to have a long las, the sniper variant of the standard pattern lasgun, with a reinforced barrel that uses a hotshot power cell firing fewer but more powerful shots compared to the standard pattern. Now the Ogryn could have what is a grenade launcher here. I'm leaning more towards a single cartridge shotgun type weapon from what we see later in some of the animations. Some Ripper guns are described as having single large cartridges, but then again they're supposed to mean the Ogryn doesn't have to expend the brain power to reload, so make of that what you will here. Close combat again pretty much for the Ogryn here against Chaos Cultists in what looks to be a medical facility. We get the feel that despite using the ranged weapons we are looking at a very melee focused gameplay style with the Ogryn with only one shot being fired, and that's at point blank range. I'm feeling all sorts of Roadhog from Overwatch vibes about how the Ogryn will play. We've been told there will be parts where the squad needs to split up to do different roles or take on different tasks, so this could be one of those with the trooper and the sniper advancing through this dimly lit area. We can see the sniper has at least 2 attachments on her long las, the flashlight and something similar to a holosight. The flashlight being particularly useful here in what could be an example of a blackout event. These blackout events would definitely add to mission replayability and tension within missions, having them be random events, so I really hope they are thinking in this direction. Equally, I wouldn't be entirely surprised if it was just sections of maps where the lighting requires players to equip flashlights. We have the priest with her autogun going through what looks like a hab block area and then to the trooper point of view. So again, we've got two characters working together, with the trooper being supported by the priest. I like the look of the lasgun model. There's recoil, which has been pointed out here, and being completely honest, can understand why the developers have decided to put recoil on lasguns. We have been told that the zombie AI will make them less eager to throw themselves en masse at our squad than the Skaven in Vermintide were. Having a few random jump scares in blackout sections sounds pretty good to me. And we have another enemy sets up their ranged positions cutscene. It is going to be a vital balancing act for Fat Shark between the rush of the melee hordes and the ranged encounters. I would love to see variety in how to approach different enemies, depending on the different environments of the hive that we're meeting them in. I just hope bum rushing ranged enemies won't be the most effective method 99% of the time. So our Ministorum priest is pounced on by a giant naked mole rat in what looks like the same mechanic used by the Clen Eshin assassins in Vermintide. The teeth definitely say dog, but the front paws scream rodent. I'm not going to get hung up about it, but some form of recognisable cyber mastiff would have fit the setting so well and not gotten into lore issues like having corn flesh hounds in a Nurgle incursion. The priest gets a lot of love throughout this trailer, and I'm going to say it worked on me. I'm sold on the character. She's a badass. And speaking of badass, I just love the ease the Ogryn swats these two fools away. It's glorious. Then we see our squad moving through an industrial manufactorum type complex again, with a mixture of melee and ranged engagements. So back in the sniper's point of view, and she tosses out a frag grenade before unloading with the long las. We get a better look at the flashlight and holosight attachments on the gun before she zooms in to fire. And then our squad now takes position in a darkened tunnel area, and we are confronted by what looks like a plague Ogryn. Interesting, they had the Ogryn stand back and fire while the sniper advances power sword in hand. The animation on his gun certainly looks again more like shot being fired than a grenade projectile. And that was the end of the trailer. Still no confirmed release date beyond sometime in 2021. One of the main discussions coming out of the gameplay reveal trailer was, have we seen all of the player characters now that we've had these 4 unveiled? Vermintide had 5 playable character archetypes: the Mercenary, the Dwarf Ranger, the Witch Hunter, the Bright Wizard, and the Elf Waystalker from launch. And while having one of these held back for a later reveal would be a great way to stoke hype for Darktide again, I'm now leaning towards us only having the 4, at release at least. Some confusion may be coming from some earlier artwork, where on the far right we had what looked like it could have been a member of the Adeptus Mechanicum, wielding a flamer and with a servo skull in attendance. Now, with the character reveals we've had, this looks like it's the Ministorum priest, getting ready to burn the heretic with holy fire. Some people also lent into the idea that we may have had a ratling there, but again I would say that's a camo cloak on our sniper, again, feeling those Tanith vibes. There's been quite a lot of chat from the developers about giving you more control over your character's loadouts and forming balanced squads from these options, rather than providing us with extra characters to select from if we happen to get the last pick. We'll see how this plays out. I'm excited to try all 4, but being honest, I can see me gravitating to the Trooper and dreaming of Krieger mods. And gas masks, baby. And there we go, my slightly late take on the Darktide gameplay reveal. I'm cautiously optimistic. I'd be more hyped if Bitter Experience hadn't taught me that lesson over and over again. I really want Darktide to fill a 40k shaped gaming hole that's been aching for a while. I hope it will be part of the channel in 2021, alongside the usual lore content and a way for me to connect with you in the future. Blatant plug for my last lore video, but if you want to know who could easily be the end boss in Darktide, then check out my video on Typhus, the Herald of Nurgle. Zombies are kinda his thing. On that, I've got a couple of lore projects on the go at the moment, with one of them being my biggest topic so far, and one very close to my heart. It's about time I took on some of the Emperor's finest. Anyway, I hope you've liked this little look at Darktide. If you have, please hit the like button and consider subscribing to the channel for more 40k content. It's making such a huge difference when you do. Let me know in the comments if you're excited for Darktide. Has there been any character that you're immediately drawn to? And I'll see you again in the near future, where there is only war.